I met Liam during my second year in the city, right after my previous roommate bailed without warning and left me with 2 months unpaid rent. Liam showed up with a duffel bag, a box of vinyl records, and a crooked grin like he'd been here before and knew exactly how to settle in. From day one, things felt easy between us. We weren't best friends overnight, but we clicked same taste in late-night takeout. Same love for old indie films, same quiet energy that made sharing a space feel natural. He had this way of making silence comfortable, of filling a room, without needing to say much. And I didn't overthink it. Sure, we were both gay, but that wasn't the point. I had Josh, he had Tyler. We were just 2 guys sharing rent and a kitchen. Josh and I had been together for 3 years, 2 of them long distance. He worked in Europe, a tech consultant always in airports and meetings. Our relationship ran on choppy video calls and well-intentioned texts that often ended with sorry. I passed out. We'd say, "I miss you a lot," but after a while, those words started to feel like placeholders. Liam's relationship with Tyler wasn't all that different. Tyler worked in marketing, constantly flying to client meetings or industry events. He was rarely around. Whenever Liam mentioned him, it was in passing. "Tyler's in Chicago. This week," he'd say. Or, "I think Tyler's mad. I forgot to text him back." But there wasn't much emotion behind the words. It felt like routine more than romance. One night, during a stormy weekend in late September, the power went out. I was in the kitchen lighting candles when Liam came in with a bottle of wine. And 2 glasses. "Might as well make it an ambience," he joked. We ended up on the couch, sipping wine, trading stories, and laughing at the wind howling outside like it was part of our soundtrack. At some point, our conversation turned more personal, about relationships, feeling stuck, wondering when love turns into obligation. He asked, "You ever feel like you're just going through the motions with someone?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah. Lately, more than ever." There was a pause. Not awkward, just heavy. I remember the way he looked at me. Not like a roommate, not like a friend, but like someone trying to read a page already half-torn. I looked away first. We didn't say much after that. Just let the music play, the rain fill the silence, and the wine run out. I told myself it was just the storm, the wine, the mood, that I imagined the look in his eyes, that it didn't mean anything. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the hum of the rain and the soft creak of the old pipes. I kept thinking about Liam, not in a fantasy way, just curious, wondering if he'd felt what I felt, or if I'd made it all up. In the dark, I whispered to myself, "We're just roommates." Like if I said it enough, it would stay true. After that night, something shifted, not in a dramatic movie scene kind of way. More like a thread pulled quietly, almost invisibly, changing the shape of everything else without anyone noticing, except me. Liam wasn't different exactly, but he felt closer somehow. The casual touches lasted longer. The eye contact lingered. And our conversations dipped into places we hadn't dared explore before. We started spending more time together without meaning to. Dinner turned into dessert, which turned into another movie, and before I knew it, we were falling asleep side by side on the couch, more nights than not. There was no plan, no label, just a growing comfort that felt too good to question. One night, as we cleaned up after dinner, Liam turned to me and said, "You know, I never thought I'd feel more at home with someone who's technically a stranger than with my own boyfriend." I paused, unsure how to respond. "Maybe that says something about your boyfriend," I said lightly, trying to deflect the weight behind his words. But he didn't laugh. "Or maybe it says something about us," he replied, eyes steady, tone unreadable. That line stayed with me all week. Something about us. I kept repeating it, dissecting it, analyzing the tone, the look in his eyes, the way he said us, like it meant more than roommates, more than friends. Josh had grown increasingly distant. Our messages had turned transactional, just updates. And time zone math. The last time we talked, he was distracted, clicking away on his keyboard while I spoke. I asked if he was still planning to visit next month, and he hesitated before saying, "I'll try, but no promises." My heart sank, but I just nodded and smiled at the screen, pretending it didn't hurt. Meanwhile, Liam and I were becoming each other's emotional refuge. We talked about everything: our childhoods, insecurities, dreams we never said out loud to anyone else. He told me Tyler barely listened anymore. I told him I felt invisible in my own relationship. We weren't looking for anything, but maybe we found it anyway. It was a Friday night when the tension finally came close to breaking. We were watching some old black and white movie, the kind Liam liked for its slow burn and subtle drama. Halfway through, I made a joke. He laughed and leaned into me, head resting briefly on my shoulder. My breath caught. I didn't move. He didn't either. A few seconds passed, and I turned to look at him. He was already looking at me. The space between us felt charged like the moment before a storm, heavy with something waiting to happen. I could feel his breath. I could see the question in his eyes. And for one terrifying second, I thought we were going to kiss. But we didn't. He pulled away gently, ran a hand through his hair, and mumbled something about being tired. I nodded, heart pounding so loud I thought he might hear it. After he left for his room, I sat there in the flickering light of the screen, trying to make sense of the surge of emotion that had just taken over me. Guilt, desire, confusion, they all tangled together in my chest like wires sparking against each other. I told myself it was just a moment, a strange, charged moment. It didn't mean anything. It couldn't. We both had people. We were both in relationships, but the problem did mean something. The next morning, things were normal. Almost too normal. Liam made pancakes. I made coffee. We talked about grocery lists and rent due dates like nothing had happened. But beneath it all, there was a tension, something unspoken, quietly simmering between us. That evening, Liam's phone buzzed while we were cooking dinner. I glanced at the screen by reflex. Tyler, the name lit up like a warning sign. Liam stared at it for a moment before flipping the phone face down and continuing to chop vegetables. "Aren't you going?" To answer, I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He shrugged. "It's nothing. He just wants to know if I'm free this weekend. Are you?" I asked before I could stop myself. He looked at me then, eyes searching. "I don't know," he said. "Depends. On what?" "On me. On us." I didn't ask. I didn't need to. That night, as I lay in bed, I felt a weight in my chest that I couldn't name. Something was unraveling, and we were both pretending it wasn't. But deep down, I knew. This wasn't harmless anymore. We had crossed a threshold, even if nothing physical had happened yet. And I couldn't shake the feeling that it was only a matter of time before something did. It happened on a Sunday. One of those gray, slow-moving days when everything feels heavier than it should. Josh had canceled our planned video call that morning. "Work emergency," he texted. No apology, no emoji. Just 3 dry words that landed harder than they should have. I stared at the screen for a while, then placed the phone face down on my nightstand. I didn't respond. Later that day, Liam was unusually quiet. We both lounged around the apartment, but the easy rhythm we usually shared felt disrupted, like a radio playing just slightly off frequency. I noticed how often he checked his phone, how his jaw tightened each time it lit up. Eventually, I asked, "Everything okay with Tyler?" He hesitated. "We had a fight last night," he said finally, voice low. He said, "I'm distant, distracted." He looked over at me. Maybe he's right. I didn't know what to say, because the truth was, I had noticed it too. And not just in him, within. myself. The emotional distance between me and Josh had become a canyon. But with Liam, I felt present. Scene: we ended up watching a movie on the couch, though neither of us paid attention. I couldn't stop stealing glances at him at his hands. The way his fingers drummed on his thigh, the small frown that settled between his brows when he was deep in thought. At one point, I looked over and found him already watching me. Neither of us looked away. That pause stretched out longer than it should have, and the air between us tightened like a wire ready to snap. "I keep thinking about that night," he said suddenly. "The storm, the wine, what I said to you." My breath caught. "So do I," I admitted, barely above a whisper. Liam shifted closer, slowly, cautiously. He was close enough now that I could smell the citrus from his shampoo, feel the warmth radiating off his skin. "Do you ever wonder if this," he said, gesturing faintly between us, "was always supposed to happen?" I didn't answer right away. I couldn't. My heart was pounding so hard I could barely think. I wanted to say no, that we were just caught in a moment, that we both had partners, that this was wrong. But the words never came. Instead, I looked at him, really looked at him, and realized that I had stopped seeing Liam as just my roommate a long time ago. "I don't know what this is," I said quietly, "but I haven't felt this connected to someone in a long time." His eyes softened, and for a second, the room felt suspended in time. No noise from outside, no flicker of doubt. Just Uzra, exposed and dangerously close to crossing a line we couldn't uncross. He leaned in first. The kiss wasn't rushed. It was hesitant, questioning, like we were both asking permission with every inch closed between us. When our lips finally met, it was soft and electric, like the first inhale after being underwater too long. My hands found his waist. His fingers tangled in my hair. It didn't feel like cheating in that moment. It felt like coming home to something I didn't know I'd been missing. But that illusion shattered the moment we broke apart. He looked at me like he was trying to read a map he'd never seen before. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. We sat there, side by side, not touching anymore, the silence pressing down on us like a weight. Eventually, Liam stood up. I need a minute," he muttered before disappearing into his room. I sat there frozen, guilt and adrenaline tangling in my stomach like a storm. My phone buzzed beside me. A message from Josh. "Hey, sorry about earlier. Want to talk now?" I stared at the screen, throat dry, heart racing. I couldn't reply, I couldn't lie, and I couldn't pretend that everything was the same anymore. Because it wasn't. Everything had changed. The next morning was quiet to quiet. Liam didn't come out of his room until nearly noon, and when he did, he barely looked at me. He muttered something about needing coffee and stood in the kitchen, staring into his mug like it held all the answers. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words got stuck in my throat. Eventually, I forced out, "We should talk." He nodded without meeting my eyes. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the silence between us thick with everything we didn't want to admit. "It wasn't just the kiss," I said finally. "It's everything that led up to it." Liam exhaled, his shoulders slumping. "I know, and I don't regret it, but we have to face it." I nodded. Josh messaged me right after. I couldn't even bring myself to reply. "Tyler called me twice," he said. I let it ring both times. The guilt settled heavy between us, a quiet acknowledgement that we had crossed a line, and no matter how real it had felt, it came at a cost. That night, I called Josh. I didn't want to text. I owed him more than that. His face filled the screen after the first ring, blurry from low lighting, but unmistakably him. "Hey," he said, cautiously. "You okay?" I nodded slowly, then shook my head. "No, not really." I told him everything, not in graphic detail but honestly. I told him that something had changed, that I'd felt it building and hadn't stopped it when I should have. His expression barely moved, but his silence was louder than any words. When I finished, he asked quietly, "Was it just once?" "Yes," I answered. "But it wasn't just a mistake. That's what makes it worse." He closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. "I loved you," he said. "Still do. But I can't come back from this." I nodded, accepting the truth I'd known the moment our kiss ended. We said goodbye, and then the screen went dark. Liam had his own reckoning. I heard the conversation through the wallow voices, tension, cracking beneath the surface. Tyler's voice rose at one point. "I knew it," he snapped. I knew something was off. A door slammed. The front door, then silence. Liam didn't come out of his room that night. The apartment felt hollow. Without the buzz of shared meals and background laughter, I lay awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what came next. The damage was done. Apologies had been made. Relationships ended. But what were we now? Survivors of an emotional implosion, or something more. The next morning, Liam and I sat on the balcony, sipping coffee in matching silence. Eventually, he said, "I hurt someone I cared about." "That's not who I want to be." I looked over. Me neither. We stayed quiet for a while longer, watching the street below. Then I asked the question that had been burning in my chest. "Do you think what happened between us was just a reaction to what we were missing? Or do you think it was real?" He turned to me, and this time, he didn't look away. "I think it was both. I think we were falling into each other without realizing it. And then one day, we just stopped falling and landed." I felt my throat tighten. "But is that enough to build something honest from?" "I don't know," he said. "But maybe. It's enough to try." We didn't kiss again that day. We didn't sleep in each other's beds. We gave the moment space to breathe, to hurt, to mean something. Over the next few weeks, we unlearned the habit of pretending. We talked truly. Talked about what we wanted, what we were afraid of, and what we were willing to do differently. There was no grand romantic gesture, no perfect resolution. Just two people sitting in the aftermath of their choices, choosing not to run. One night, weeks later, Liam turned to me on the couch, the same one where everything had changed in. Said, "If we're going to do this, it has to be for the right reasons." I nodded. Not out of guilt, not out of loneliness. Not because we broke something else to get here. He looked at me, steady and sure. "Then let's make it honest. No secrets, no lies. Starting now." I smiled, not because everything was fixed, but because, for the first time in a long while, it felt like something was beginning, not just ending. And maybe, just maybe, that one night didn't break us. Maybe it revealed the truth we were too afraid to face. We were just roommates until we weren't, until everything changed.